Get ready. The DE Talk podcast starts now. Insightful conversations and dialogue helping you put the human factor back in HR.
Welcome to the DE Talk podcast. I'm Mikey Mahar, Direct Employers Manager of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Specialties. Creating a culture of belonging is front and center as employers work to cultivate diverse and inclusive workplaces. It's not enough to recruit talent and give equal access to opportunities. Once they're in the door, employees need to feel that they belong. Employee resource groups are the catalyst for creating belonging and a sense of community. They offer a way to connect employees with their peers scattered throughout the company and build a support system and a safe space for conversation and connection. As a leader of our ERG program at Direct Employers, I'm always excited to see behind the curtain, learn how other employers are taking advantage of ERGs as a workforce inclusion activity, and learn from their process. I don't think it's any secret that if we learn together, we grow together. Today, I'm excited to welcome Dave Erdmann, United States Marine veteran and Valvoline's Director of Incubation and Enablement, and Eric Bevevino, United States Navy Reserve veteran and Valvoline Global Operations Senior Director, Channel Partner in Heavy Duty Sales, both of which co-chair their company's Veterans Employee Resource Group. So, welcome, Dave and Eric. First and foremost, thank you for your service. We're very excited to have this conversation with you, to not only share your experience, but also provide inspiration to other employers who may be starting out in their ERG journey.
Thanks for having us. It's an honor.
Thank you.
It's very exciting. And I think before we really dive into this, why don't we start out with a little bit of your background? And Dave, if you want to start, you could tell us about your experience in the Marines. I know you've had a couple of different situations you've been in. So if you want to expand on that, we'd love to hear about the experience.
Sure, I'd love to. And then, as Eric said, thanks for having us. And anytime somebody says thank you for your service, I always my reply is always, hey, thanks for paying taxes. So it's an honor to be a part of this. And my journey really began right out of high school. I went into the Marines in the fall of 1998, and got to spend time in Okinawa, Japan for a year. I was stationed there. That was my first duty station, which was a lot of fun. That was the first time I've obviously been out of the country, and I learned a ton. I was as a 3521, which is a light duty diesel mechanic. So if it had wheels on it, we worked on it, and we were responsible for quite a bit of gear. And then after that, I finished my enlistment in San Diego, which was a very nice place. I was actually at Miramar, which used to be a Navy base, and they gave that to the Marines. So I was super thankful for being at Miramar, because Marines aren't used to nice stuff, and so it was really an honor to be at Miramar. And continue on. And I finished my enlistment in the fall of 2002. And it was a great 4 years. I look back, I still dream about it. I had a lot of still have a lot of great friends that have retired in San Diego. I've taken my family out there to meet them, and just really enjoyed serving. So.
Awesome. Yeah, I don't blame you. San Diego is by far one of my favorite places too. It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And
sure.
Eric, you want to tell us a little bit about your experience in the Navy as well?
Sure. And first off, thank you for your patriotism as well, that, Dave has his answer and I have my answer for anybody who thanks us for our service. It was certainly an honor and a pleasure. And my service started out with Penn State ROTC. So right in central Pennsylvania, graduated, got a commission as an ensign in the United States Navy, active duty in January of 1990. So I went to Surface Warfare Officer School in Newport, Rhode Island, got to go to hard hat diving school, men of honor type stuff in Panama City for about a half a year there, and then went to the fleet. Started off on ARS 8, which is the Preserver, a diving and salvage ship. Also went to a Minesweeper MSO 440, the Exploit. And that rounded out my 4 years of active duty. And then I stayed in the reserves for another 18, mostly with small diving units, reserve diving units. But then as I rose through the ranks, became a staff officer supporting Panama, Japan, Italy, and been around a little bit and got all sorts of very cool training and experiences, not only with other cultures, but also in strategy development and mission accomplishment, as well as leadership. So it was fun time. I've been retired from the reserves for, almost 10 years now. So time flies. 2014.
I'm sure that brings a lot of great experience into, your current job and previous positions as well. As you both transitioned, really, what was your job experience like into the civilian life? Was it harder than you expected? Just about maybe what you've heard from other people that done it. Kind of walk us through what that was like.
Yeah, I think for me, I learned a lot about just mechanical skills in general throughout my enlistment. I mean, we started out troubleshooting, and then we went all the way to big repair and replacement, and so really cutting my teeth in the Marines helped me develop that skill. And when I look back prior to that, like the jobs that I enjoyed the most, which would have been in high school, were all retail positions. And I really like people. I really like interacting with people. I really like making people's day. And I was just about to get married when I moved home to Cincinnati, and I was a little bit nervous. It was because I was used to the structure, always knowing what to do, but I was also leading people, and I wanted the opportunity to lead again, and I didn't know if I'd get that opportunity. And I was driving by a Valvoline instant oil change in Cincinnati, Ohio, and there was this really gaudy now hiring sign that I saw on the front door, and I thought, well, what are they, changing oil? I can do that with my eyes closed, and it looks like they get to talk to people as well. So maybe this could be a good fit. And I went in and really learned about, the process and the structure, which is again what I was used to in the military. And I think that's what Valvoline brought to me, was the sense of process, and there's really one way to do things, and that's to do them correctly. And the manager that hired me saw that the leadership qualities that I developed in the Marines, and hired me in as an assistant manager. So I did have that responsibility right away. So it was, I would like to tell people, I got really, really lucky by seeing that now hiring sign, because I don't know what I would have done without it. And here I am, 21 years later. So it's been a great journey.
Yeah. And, not to say that, I don't think you necessarily got lucky as much as I think you took your experience and, a lot of that patience, and you said you like the process. And, I think having that innate structure already, that was noticed. And, I think you made an opportunity out of it, which is absolutely awesome.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah. And Dave's experience is, I don't know if it's that common, but when I talk to veterans, it's probably less common that you go right into some sort of management or leadership position from the military. It's, I think, more common to say, I'm not qualified for anything, or to maybe fall into the trap of, I'm not qualified for anything because nothing on my resume looks like anything on the job description. And I'm just going to take whatever I can. I'm just going to get in. I got to feed my family. I got to get a paycheck and that type of thing. So good for you, Dave, for using the Semper Fi, do or die spirit and finding that gaudy sign.
That's
Because
right.
the gaudy signs you were looking for as a Marine usually said free beer or
That's
something
right.
like that,
That's
type of
exactly right.
thing.
Not a bad sign either.
But yeah, so my experience was a little clunkier, perhaps, and I think it's better now because I still talk to a lot of veterans who are transitioning. This is a big deal, right? So this is a great question because this is where people can get lost in the shuffle, and it goes to the heart of the ERGs and the camaraderie. And if somebody does come in from the veteran community, brand new, out of active duty or reserves or whatever, making them feel like they belong because they do belong. Having somebody that they can relate to is really, really, really important. I went through a junior military officer recruiter in Virginia Beach, Norfolk area when I got out, and primarily they set me up for sales jobs, like territory jobs, like go out and sell chemicals for Nalco or sell oil for Dryden or Castrol. I ended up at Castrol on the industrial side because I think the process that veterans come sort of taught in their formative years of maintenance and reliability is really important. If Dave's vehicles didn't run, he'd be overrun by the bad guys. And if the equipment on a ship doesn't run, then we're stuck in the middle of nowhere with no help or, God forbid, a fire or something like that. So that comes through. And then how was I led to Valvoline? Well, I started in the oil business, so I was a tech support sort of specialist with Castrol on the industrial side, and then learned more about motor oils, engine oils, gear oils, greases. Went to Chevron after a stint with Castrol, did some maintenance and reliability consulting for a small company in between oil companies, and then decided I wanted a more sort of stable life, a family life, new family, young kids and whatnot. And a guy named Kelly Holt came calling from Valvoline. And if you know Kelly, he's a great coach and leader and mentor. And he signed me up to be the really regional account manager in the Northeast for the heavy duty squad of Valvoline. Yeah. So did that and also was doing the reserves 1 weekend a month and 2 weeks in the summer. So that helped to augment what I had going on at Valvoline, take a little bit of a break every once in a while from the corporate program. And Valvoline treated us really, really well on that. I mean, sometimes you can have issues coming back, especially from deployments. If you're gone, there are laws that you're supposed to hire everybody back and not get rid of their job. Not everybody abides by those laws, but I'm happy to say that Valvoline is very supportive all the way along with the reserve duty. So it's all good. Yeah.
Good. That's very good to hear. I love, hearing companies that are taking care of their employees as well as trying to expand that workplace culture. So, you're still getting to do something that you're passionate about and love and can bring that right back into their company. Full circle. So that's perfect. And kind of leads us right into our topic of conversation with employee resource groups. So is your Veterans ERG relatively new? Is this something you both were quote unquote tasked with or had an idea and ran with it? Walk me through how you started or got involved in running your ERG.
Yep. So the Veterans ERG was introduced to us, I'll say, the middle of 2023, and ERGs as a whole was new for Valvoline, and I was actually approached to co-lead it by our leadership team here at Valvoline, and I jumped at it because there's other veterans in Valvoline, and I really wanted to be a part of creating a special space where veterans can feel safe, experience the camaraderie that we're used to as veterans, and just do some good both internally within Valvoline through mentorships and development, and also externally in the community. If anyone knows anything about vets, it's that we love to give and we love to serve. We didn't stop serving, once we got out of the military. That's ingrained in us, and so co-leading the Veterans ERG with Eric has been a pleasure, and in some ways it's still new, and we're trying to figure things out, but it's been an amazing journey.
Awesome. Yeah, I can definitely relate. I think back in 2022 is when we started our employee resource group, and there was just a handful of us, a task force, putting together a business plan, strategy, and that was just year one. And then last year was, just one big group for a smaller company. And now this year, as of 2024, we have 6 ERG subgroups. So we've come a long way in 2 years, and it's been fantastic and rewarding, as I'm sure you can relate to. And we have a veterans ERG as well.
That's great. Yeah, congratulations. That's a lot of movement in a short amount of time. So that's great to hear.
Yeah, we have a lot of support from our executive director and our leadership team, and I think it's imperative that if, especially being a new employee resource group, even if the company's been around forever, the support is just absolutely so important, and I can't stress that enough. And it sounds like Valvoline has given you all the green light and the support that you need to be able to run it efficiently and get everybody involved that want to be involved.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'll just add on to that the human resources group within Valvoline, a little bit of the history. We used to be the same company, just one big Valvoline. And over the past couple of years, the instant oil change piece of the business, which Dave is a part of, and then the global operations piece of the business, which I'm part of it, which is a B2B. Now, Dave's like our biggest customer. Dave and the Valvoline Retail Services Group are our biggest customer. So when that happens, it inspires a lot of change and shifting around. We had to duplicate HR, finance, all the shared services, and brought in some really top-notch characters from around Lexington. And I'll shout out to Amanda Playkosh, who is really, she did this in a past life at another company, and she brought that in and that enthusiasm in, basically when the template is there and you have somebody whose full-time job it is to keep pushing you along, when this is a part-time gig for us, it is 100%. I agree with you, Mikey. It is 100% key to the success, because otherwise you may feel like you're just pushing a rope or you're out on an island. Nobody cares. What are we doing here? We get together for beers or whatever. But this puts structure to it. It enables us to do things within the building, which we're co-located at. And we'll talk about some of those later, but it really increases the, I think, the breadth of the membership. Yeah. And once you have more members, you can get more momentum and push it forward. But the support from the organization has been top notch, and it makes all the difference in the world.
Yes. Well said.
Really does. And with that being said, how you obviously have support from the organization, your specific group with the veterans group, do you have an executive sponsor that champions your work or kind of helps specifically with just the veteran ERG that can kind of advocate at the higher levels for you?
We do, and on each side of the business. So Kyle McMahon is my executive sponsor, and Kyle is one of our vice presidents of operations for Valvoline. It's an oil change. And he himself is is a veteran as well. And so he's the sponsor for me on the VIOC side, and supports me. He's a huge cheerleader for the Veterans ERG, and also challenges me as well, which I need all of that in order to, keep this thing moving with Eric.
Yeah, same for us. I mean, a little bit of duplication in roles here, but you need it, right? Roger England is our Chief Technology Officer, and though Roger is not a veteran, his daughter is a veteran recruiter for John Deere out of Florida, and her husband is an Army officer, Army intel officer. So he's related, patriotic, Johnny on the spot, helps out with whatever we need, and is a great advocate for the ERG.
Perfect. I'm sure that, like you said, it helps with the momentum and engagement. And really that's the recipe to keep it going and, bring some validity to it too. Cause I think sometimes when these groups are new, there can be a lot of speculation, like what are you actually doing? What's the goal here? But it's, the goal is culture and, finding the right fit for retention and keeping your employees. So really happy to hear that we have similar experiences with the support from leadership, and seems like we're both on the right track. So that's good so far.
Well, without a doubt, and just one more thing, I think it's community, right? And community is struggling in some portions of this country. So we have got all types, shapes, and sizes of people everywhere, and some have veteran experiences, others are other parts of other ERGs, and it's really a sense of belonging and community that. Since we do spend so much time at work, and it's most of what we do in our life, at least our pre-retirement life, it's filling that gap, right?
Yes.
Filling that gap. So yeah, well, good point.
And how many participate in your ERG? And do you open it up to allies and military spouses, or is this pretty much just your veterans?
Yeah, so total, we have about 70 members of the Veterans ERG, and that's split about 50-50 between, Valvoline Retail Services and Valvoline Global Operations. And we really enjoy all the members that we have, and it took us a little bit to get there. We on the retail side, we had a national meeting in October that we invite all of our store managers. So we have approximately 900 corporate Valvoline Instant Oil Change locations across the United States, and once a year we get them together and have our big national meeting. And during that, we had a resource fair that included all the various ERGs to just talk with anybody that wanted to know more about it. And from that event alone is where, at least on the retail side, we got most of our members. So having a captive audience and a table of like a resource fair or a vendor fair, I would say was a really good idea because we got so much traction from that one event alone. And so that's essentially how that grew overnight. So I was super pleased to get that many interested people in that. And as far as like who can be in the ERG, I think obviously veterans, but we have family members of veterans or family members of active duty members, and patriots. If you just support the military and veterans, we'd love to have you. And I think like opening it up to that has made the ERG stronger.
Yes, and I love your not your idea, but the fact that you guys hosted a resource fair, and that's how you were able to spread the message. And you're definitely a larger company than direct employers is, but that's just little tidbits like that, even for our company side, is such a good idea, and I think would be paramount to getting other employees involved. And so I like that little takeaway from that.
Yeah, it's much more effective than an email. Hey, if you're interested in this, reply. I mean, the odds of you getting a reply are pretty slim. But when you have that many people in person, like I would 100% recommend it.
Very cool. And what have either been some barriers that you and Eric have run into with running the employee resource group? And I guess what are some benefits you've seen come out of this outside of maybe just camaraderie? I guess more thinking along the lines of a strategic business plan.
Yeah, I'll take that on a little bit. I think one of the challenges is that our employees are very spread out across the United States for Dave and myself, but also across the globe for Valvoline Global Operations. So there's a small core group in headquarters that does a lot of the work. So you can quickly sort of get overwhelmed if you're not delegating and if you don't have a structure. So HR brought a nice structure into that, but there may only be like 10 people at headquarters sort of managing that, and then trying to replicate that structure out to demographic clusters of employees, right? Because we have blending plants in Houston and Pittsburgh, Dallas, and other places around the country. So that's a little bit of a challenge, but Microsoft Teams helps with that, getting everybody on. I mean, that was one of the benefits of COVID. It showed us that we can do all this stuff whenever we want. It's not as good as face to face, but it's better than just picking up the phone, I suppose, and talking to folks. But that's been a big challenge. Sometimes the budgeting perhaps can be a challenge unless you know exactly what you have, and you have people who are experienced with how much these different types of things cost, and being able to get things for free perhaps or donated as opposed to having to go out and buy them and stuff like that. So I think those are some of the challenges. I'm not sure if I answered the entire question, Dave. Did I miss anything?
No, you said well said, Eric. On my side, there's 11,000 total Valvoline employees, and 9,900 of the what we call family members, because we'll put a V on anything. 9,900 of our family members are in the stores across the U.S. So, as Eric said, Teams is difficult because it's not that in-person feel, but it gives us the ability to reach more team members and just connect, right? Because again, as Eric said, that COVID, if one good thing came out of COVID, it was our ability to semper gumby, be always flexible and connect with each other virtually.
Yes, it definitely has. I always say too, because even before the pandemic, I was remote in our company, and I think I met and connected more with each person in the company than I did prior to the pandemic, because then we all were remote. We were always on Zoom in the beginning, and we still are, but just so much more effective and more efficient with our engagement now. So I think that has, really helped at least our company culture as a whole. And I guess how, so you're so spread out. How often do you meet as a group? Do you do it quarterly, monthly?
So we meet every month on an hour phone call for everybody. And then we have ad hoc meetings around the two real cornerstone veteran holidays of the year, being Memorial Day and Veterans Day, sorry. But yeah, so that's one way we meet. And then we're just starting sort of a social program where we get together. I think, Dave, did we settle on 6 weeks? We were between quarterly and
it's every 6 weeks or so.
Yeah. So we'll get together, or our plan is to get together at a bar, restaurant, tell some stories. I'm sure they'll all be true, right? And have a few adult beverages or not, and maybe some bar food. But That's the plan, and there are other opportunities to get together. Like in support of the 4th of July parade, we assembled a small group of like 5 folks, and we handed out tchotchkes, and we walked alongside the Baja truck, which is kind of a cool off-road truck built by Valvoline and Cummins in a partnership, and ran the Baja 1000, I think it is, right? Baja 500, 1000. Sorry,
Agreed.
I'm not an
Yep.
aficionado there, but yeah, we did that, and also
Well,
we ran in the honor flight 5K. So we assembled a team. Actually, more people came out to that. I think we had 20 or 25 runners at the local horse track here, which is called Keeneland. It's very nice. So we did that when we supported the honor flight in Kentucky. And we do little things like that, charity things, and some big things too around the year to help improve camaraderie and get everybody together.
That's awesome. And I can only imagine you'll expand out from there too. And, I like the idea of starting your social program. And we've done a couple things like that too, where we, whether you're getting together in person and supporting, we've done a disability owned organization, women's owned organization, and just trying to give back locally into the Indianapolis community whenever we get a chance. So, it sounds like you're doing the same things, and it does feel good as a group when you're all getting together for that same purpose.
It really does. It really does. So examples of that, Dave, we went to the Lyric Theater recently for Black History Month with the Black and African American group within Valvoline. So that was great, and really kind of creative on the part of HR. It was, if you haven't seen this play, it's an interesting play. It has a twist, and I won't ruin it for you. You should go see it. But very welcoming and supportive. I mean, all the way around, really, really pretty good. We're also doing, for Mental Health Month, the last year we had a mental health seminar. We're in, of course, with veterans as well as the whole community in the U.S. As I'm learning, suicide is a bigger and bigger issue.
Yes.
Anxiety, post-traumatic stress, mental health, that type of thing. So we've been supporting that. And we also, actually walking in the building one day, I saw one of our fellow veterans, and, we exchanged pleasantries, and he was like, I was thinking about this. Interest rates are high. Does everybody know about VA loans and what you can do with that? And I was like, I know a little bit about it, but it's probably a good point. Let me see what's happening. So I casted a net out to the Veterans ERG on Microsoft Teams, find out that somebody here in Lexington has a friend who is a banker that specializes in VA loans. And about
Wow.
3 weeks later, we had a small group of people, brought in lunch, and at a presentation, which we recorded for the folks who aren't in Lexington, about how to use VA loans and what's the latest and greatest and who to contact and everything like that. So yeah, it tends to kind of take on a life of its own a little bit and be self-fulfilling once the group feels like there's support and we're listened to and we're going to take action on stuff. And yeah.
Yeah. And I kind of feel like that's the fun of it is, this has been so fun putting together and also nerve wracking because sometimes, each month I'm like, oh man, we're walking into another meeting and it's just, you want to do right by everybody. But each interaction is its own journey that then casts off into another idea and something else you do the next month. So that has been a lot of fun and getting to be a part of this and start it from scratch. And as you know, definitely, like you said, takes a life of its own, and it's awesome.
Keeps things hopping. There's no question about that.
Seriously.
They talk about work-life balance. How about work balance?
Yeah.
And I think that, Eric mentioned, what we partner with our Black African American resource group, last month. I think, having other leaders and working with other leaders and other ERGs has been helpful for us, because we're all on the same journey, because all of the ERGs were started at the same time, essentially, and partnering with these with other ERGs has been really helpful, and has gives us a chance to share best practices, what's working well across the organization, and in these other employee resource groups. So I've found that very helpful.
Yes, the collaboration. And that's the other thing I love too, is the cross collaboration, that you get to work with other people in the company that outside of an ERG you really might never have to cross paths with, and kind of just sharing those ideas. And with that being said, do you know offhand how many ERGs total you have in the company?
We were clicking them off. Now they're relatively new, but I think the one that's been around the longest, well, Dave already mentioned the Black and African American group, but also it's the women's group. So Valvoline, I should be able to remember what the acronym stands for, but I think Valvoline International Empowering Women, but that's our largest ERG and our one that's been around the longest. We also have an LGBTQIA, probably LGBTQIA group, Veterans Women's Young Professionals, which is managed by a young lady out of Australia. Parents and Caregivers, which is interesting because you think of parents and caregivers, you have children, running around, and you also have adults that need care too, as we migrate through life and grow older. And then I think the final group that is just really being kicked off is a well-being group. It's more of a mental and physical health well-being group. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I think 7 altogether. Yeah.
That's incredible.
And we have a yearbook that's getting ready to be published.
That's right.
Who would have thought?
That is such a good idea.
Yeah, we'll have to share that with you when it comes out. It's in the final phases of.
Please do.
Editing, just making sure it's all polished up for the year 2023. So
yeah, I want to suggest this to our marketing team. They're probably hating me right now, being like, no, don't add more work to our plate, because they're incredible in everything that they do, and we're always just firing new ideas at them. But I love the yearbook idea. That's really, really awesome.
And it doesn't have to be, like a high school or college yearbook. I mean, it can be just a few pages or 4 or 5 pages, just something nice to remind folks. And then if people are wanting to join the company, then they can see proof that there's actual activity going on here versus lip service and no action.
Yes, exactly. But that's a great point, because there is a lot of that too. And that's, just in talking with you this past hour, I can tell that, that's not what you both are about. That's certainly not what we're about. And so I think that's a great idea to counter that. And I do have a couple more questions for you. And I kind of think I already know the answer to this one, but what compels you both to continue to lead the ERG, knowing that there are other members in the group that, I'm sure would be willing to take over if need be. But I guess what keeps you coming back? Because it is, and I know this personally, it is like a second job, to keep this going and to keep the momentum moving forward.
Yeah, I think for me, the passion that Eric and I have just around veterans, and the highs and the lows that veterans can experience, knowing that we're part of an organization that recognizes those, and giving us the ability to again make that special place where we can all be together is super important for us to lead. And for me personally, I talked about my story earlier. There's other Dave Erdmanns out there that are getting ready to get out of the military and are looking for looking for opportunities in the civilian world. And I'm really using this to attract more veterans to Valvoline, and especially the E4, E5, E6, the non-commissioned officers that have done their 4 years and are getting out and are really looking for what's next. I know what I brought to the table, and as an organization, I'll say historically we haven't really looked for those. We're really proud of hiring technicians, and then proving that you can actually lead before you get to that promotion. And we've been able to partner with Recruit Military and some other organizations, recruiting organizations that have really helped us attract veterans in that E4, E5, E6, so that they can make an impact immediately when they're hired in, and feel that sense of worth. And so those are the types of things that I really want to continue to lead and continue to champion.
Very cool.
Yeah, I would agree 100% on all points. The transition phase, like we mentioned before, is really the most precarious part of any serviceman or servicewoman's journey through life, right? So I firmly believe by helping to create a bridge, albeit maybe a small bridge, to Valvoline, we can keep service members departing from the military, 200,000 per year are leaving active duty, keep them from any sort of downward spiral on the path to hurting themselves or, being less than what they could be. And certainly bringing that leadership to the organization and the country that we also desperately need. So just continue. That's the core mission. And ultimately, I'll be a part of this group and a leader for as long as I can be that, for sure. But certainly want to make sure that the foundation of the house is stable before we bring in the roofers and, the other folks, because there's plenty of talent that can just step in here and do it. And that will happen soon. Because one of the great things about these, let's call them affinity groups or ERGs, is that folks who may not have high titles or leadership or management positions today can exhibit their talents and have an opportunity within a group like this, and then also get face time with executives, because this type of stuff is always really in front of the executive committees and the executive team. So I think that's all a part of it. And just a final example of that, I guess we haven't quite talked about it yet, but we had a service member who was deployed, got to Valvoline, joined over the summer, got deployed to Lebanon in the Kentucky National Guard. So this is Valvoline Global Operations person. And the support, not only from his team, so his team in supply chain rallied around him, but they also reached out to us and the folks from the VRS, Dave included, the folks from Valvoline Global Operations, and we all rallied around this individual to make sure that not only was he taken care of, he wasn't too worried about himself, but we had sort of a crew that was like, make sure that packages are going and he's taken care of. But we also had a crew that was taking care of his wife and kids at home and make sure that their grass was cut, and that if they need anything, groceries or childcare or anything like that, that was taking place. So, it's just really inspirational to be a part of when you see things like that. And
chills.
Yeah. And inspirational to work with Dave. I know we've been buddies in the organization as it was one, but it's two now. And sometimes it's hard to get this sort of collaboration with your own organization, let alone, with an affinity group across organizations. But, sometimes there's less bureaucracy, perhaps. And even more and more of that is happening. Cummins Engine Company out of Columbus, Indiana, invited us to be part of a larger group that has Otis Elevator, Pinterest, Palo Alto Networks, and Verizon. So some technical companies, not all old hardline industrial companies. And once every 6 weeks, we meet and we share. We're starting to share guest speakers. We're starting to share ideas, challenge coin manufacturers, all that type of stuff to help each other out. So I think ultimately at the end of the day, we'll make that transition process easier for folks who are coming out of the military, because it's getting better, but it's still a little clunky, and there's just so many resources, but they're all not in the same spot, and they're not easy for people to navigate, especially if they've only known the service, say for 20 or 30 years, or maybe just 5. But yeah. So that's probably more than what you bargained for in that one, but we've got a lot of passion around that question.
I know, I love it. And then you just learn so much. And honestly, I don't know anybody else in your company, but I can sit here and say, I think you're the best to lead what you're doing. Your efforts, I'm sure, definitely do not go unnoticed. And, so I just want to thank you, because I do know the effort behind it, but, you guys have so much going on behind the scenes as well. And, to reach out to that employee and not only make sure he's getting care packages, but the family and like that, it's just something I hope for all companies at some point just becomes, it's something you don't even have to think about, or we don't even need an employee resource group to have that come to your head.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
That's the goal for sure.
Yep. So thank you both for doing what you do. And again, thank you so much for your service and being here today.
Well, we appreciate the opportunity, Mikey, for sure. And tell you got a heart of gold through these conversations. All good.
Mikey, thanks for having us, and thanks for letting us brag on not only what Valvoline is doing, but what the Veterans ERG is doing. We appreciate it.
Always. I'm so glad I got to learn so much, and definitely have some takeaways myself. So I know other employers listening to this, I think this will be a very valuable episode for them.
Great.
Awesome. Well, thank you both so much.
Thank you, Mikey.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for tuning in for another episode of the DE Talk podcast. Stay connected with direct employers on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, and subscribe to our emails by visiting directemployers.org/subscribe to receive notifications of new episodes, webinars, events, and more.